Hello and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit cryptocurrency, business, real estate, save a failed 1031 exchange. You can create and preserve more wealth, defer a bunch of tax, and help your clients and friends or family do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial wealth, and cryptocurrency and technology minds sometimes in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, we're talking about all things the future of like the Web3 industry and kind of building that. And we have an expert today. He's an experienced senior executive specializing in financial services at one point, and also the automotive industry with expertise leading business units in Australia, New Zealand, and the US. He has senior leadership positions in operations, sales, and marketing, credit risk assessment, financial analysis, treasury, and business unit restructuring. And right now he's focused like a laser on business development with a company called subquery.network. Please welcome to the show with me, James Bailey. James, how you doing?
Hey, thanks, Brett. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, I've been all over the place, as you say, and thanks for the intro. I'm based in New Zealand, so I apologize for the thick accent from the start, but we'll try to be as clear as possible here. I've been all over the place. I've worked in different industries. I've also worked in insurance before, a lot of different financial software services, and a lot around product management. I used to be a developer many years ago, but a pretty lousy developer at that. But now, today, in the last 2 years, I've been focused in the Web3 industry, in the blockchain industry, which is going through some massive change. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, and it's a wild ride. It's an absolute roller coaster. So it's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm happy to provide some insights on what's happening in our space.
Awesome, James. Yeah, appreciate that. And we'll be talking about building the Web3 infrastructure and how that might be something that you're aware of, so that you're not caught behind, right? And as well, talking about some cryptocurrency investments, kind of what happened with the Terra Luna kind of collapse here in the last few weeks. So, but before we go there, James, I want to go back to maybe an earlier day. Maybe a day you're playing some rugby or playing some football, right, where you're from. And, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. The gifts be given us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what are those one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help you help and bless people today?
That's a great question. I am very lucky to be quite a fit guy. And one of the things that I wasn't playing rugby or football at the time, but I do a lot of adventure racing. So that's one of the ways I like to get out and about and blow off some steam sometimes. In terms of helping people, like really, it's friends, knowing, taking them outside. We're lucky in New Zealand; we've got some amazing outdoors. Half of Lord of the Rings most of Lord of the Rings was filmed here, and really the outdoors are just as beautiful as you see in that movie. So it's about taking people and helping them go out and see the great outdoors here.
Excellent. I love that. So just a love for the great outdoors and taking people and connecting them with some of the most amazing places in the world. Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings and all of that. That's on the bucket list. So if I get there, maybe you'll take me on that adventure too. Cool. Well, let's take that part of it and helping people explore maybe greater opportunities than they thought were possible. And let's move that right into building a Web3 infrastructure. So what is the number one secret to Subquery? By the way, if you want to learn more about James Bailey and everything he's doing, you go to subquery.network. That's subquery.network. So what's the number one secret to building Web3 infrastructure, James?
So maybe I'll take a step back and look at the environment in Web3 at the moment. So look at Web3 right now as the .com industry or the internet industry in 1997 or so, right? There's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of snake oil, and that's one of the biggest downsides of industry. But behind the scenes, beneath that layer of noise and con artists, there's a lot of really smart people building and building infrastructure tools, building new applications in DeFi, NFTs, and all these different spaces. We do a lot of work at Subquery with Berkeley University. And their top Masters of Financial Engineering course. Masters of Financial Engineering was a historic course that they basically, everyone from their top of the top would go to hedge funds. We're seeing a lot of those students, and I was talking to the lecturer of this course, and she's saying that most of these students are now going to blockchain. Blockchain's attracting the smartest and the brightest because it provides an alternative to the way that we do things online now. The alternative to what our financial industry is like, an alternative to how we sell art and sell value around that art, an alternative to a lot of different things. One of the things in blockchain, it's quite a fundamental different approach to how things work. And so we're still trying to figure out where it might work, what applications of the technology work. And just like back in 1997, where pets.com was the biggest new thing, some of those applications are a bit misleading. But, looking 22 years later, Brett, you and I are talking from across the world on the internet. And without the internet, life as we know it wouldn't exist. So regardless of all the hype, there's a lot of people building these infrastructure pieces that are going to hopefully be there in 2050. So at Subcareer, what we do is we focus on an infrastructure challenge. Now, blockchain is quite different from the internet. The internet runs on this concept of databases, right? If you store data somewhere, it's in a database. And a database, for those that aren't technical, it's like a big spreadsheet, okay? So you have this rows and columns of different data, and you can sort and search and filter those rows and columns just like you can in a spreadsheet. Blockchain is different. Blockchain is like a book. And every 10 seconds, a new page is written with that book. And that book has, for that page, we'll just have the last 10 seconds worth of transactions. So if we're doing a Bitcoin, for example, that page includes the last 10 seconds worth of transactions that have been made. So I sent you 10 Bitcoin, Brett. That record will be written in that book. And all those pages will make up the entire history of the Bitcoin and all the transactions that have ever happened. Now, if I want to find out how the last 10 transactions that I have made, if I want to look in a wallet to see that, just like in a book, I would have to go through every single page looking for the last 10 transactions I've ever made. It's the most inefficient way to store data if you want to query it. And as we all know, data is the secret to many of the companies out there, right? Facebook, Google, these companies would not be where they are without their ability to interrogate, to manage, and to extract value from the huge data sets they have. And it will be the same in blockchain. So what Subquery does is taking data from this book, this chain of blocks, this book of pages, same kind of concept, it's a blockchain, it's in the name. And constantly, every time blocks are added, we'll take that data out and put it into something more akin to a spreadsheet, to which you can use in these applications, and these wallets, and these NFT marketplaces, and these DeFi platforms, and then everything else that we'll be building in the future. It's a core piece of infrastructure, and it's one of those things that we're in the space right now in blockchain where we're building all these pieces of infrastructure so that we can build those next generations of websites, of applications, of mobile apps, or of platforms that the next generation of the internet could be built upon.
Okay, so let me see if I captured that. So we, first of all, the analogy I think of is like TV that used to be no color, right? And then there's TV in color. And then I even think about the original like dial-up internet where it's literally like, the phone number and it's, making all the noises. The AOL was the classic one, right? With all the little chirps and chimes, and it's taking forever. And then eventually data was able to be moved even quicker, right? And then there's fiber optics, and and then of course Wi-Fi came along, and then there's 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and then blockchain is almost like it's maybe seen in 2D to like 3D, but doing it so quickly and consistently updating, and then be able to extract that data. It's taking it to it's almost like it's taking it to like the nuclear level. Is that a fair summary of what I'm saying here, James, or where am I off here?
So there's like we call Web 3 because there's like 3 generations of the web, and blockchain is the third. So Web 1 is the age of like early dial-up Yahoo, where you go to a website and you'd read something that they had created for you. Okay, like you go to a newspaper article. That's an example of Web 1, where you go there and you read content that the owner of that website has created for you. Okay. Web 2 is different. Web 2 is the age of social media. It's the age of user-generated content. So a lot of people these days, they just get what they just read content and consume content on websites where anyone can generate it, and whatever's popular will be shown to me. Okay, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, all these platforms. That's Web 2. Web 3 looks at Web 2 and says, okay, user-generated content is really powerful. But the problem is we all lost control of that content. Even though we create the content, we do all the hard work, we build these up, we are the product of these great big search giants that then use the data from that content, the insights from who likes it, and they use that against us. They serve us content that compounds our beliefs or creates bubbles. We can't really take that content and take it somewhere else. We can't do that. So Web3s are all around this mindset of ownership of that content. And the whole thing that Web3 enables, which is having a decentralized database, having a decentralized protocol where we own it and we control it, is that it's very transparent who owns that content and the rules over which you can use that.
So well said. I think it's clicking even more here, right? And it's part of how this is connected with cryptocurrency and investing in the future of really business.
Everything
and community.
in Web3 comes to that mindset, that political mindset of, we should control what we create and what we do. We shouldn't, again, you send money, like in New Zealand, we have a lot of migrant population from islands in the Pacific, like Fiji and Niue and Solomon Islands. And for example, they want to send money home. They got to go to Western Union. They got to send $100 back to their family, and Western Union takes 10% off that. And that money takes 2 weeks to get there. It's a terrible user experience, right? And that's not right. It seems strange. Why does this financial institution clip the ticket on everything? So that's the idea of DeFi, building that protocol to automate that and do that more efficiently. And that's the whole thing with Web3. Is how do we automate and make more efficient all the processes we do in real life?
Absolutely love it. And by the way, I'm speaking with James Bailey. He's the head of business development. You can find him at subquery.network, subquery.network. That's subquery.network. So, okay, James, so take us to the next level. So once we've identified kind of what we're trying to solve for and what the problem is, so what is subquery practically going to do to help somebody get there on whether it be their business or their communication or their technology or their investing? Kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so we both basically focus on helping business owners in the space. So if you're building a new application, a new product in Web3, we're one of those tools that are those fundamental infrastructure tools that you need to use to build an amazing product. And really the vision of Subquery is building tools that allow us to create better platforms in Web3 that allow you as an investor, you as someone in retail, you as a person that wants to participate in this economy, that provides you a better user experience. So that's the ultimate end goal. The way that we do that is provide the tools to other developers to build that future. And that could mean a better way to send money to back home to Fiji. It could mean a better user experience to do derivatives trading on Web3. A great example is if you wanted to, in the traditional world, if you wanted to set up a derivative based on house prices in the local Sacramento area, you could kind of do that. You go to Goldman Sachs and you'd say, can I please sell this derivative? And here's a huge amount of liquidity to run it. And Goldman Sachs would sit there and that's okay, I'll do that. It's going to cost you $10 million. I'm going to take 2% of every transaction, but I can probably help you facilitate that. There's a lot big cost for that. In Web3, if you can codify it, you can do that. And you can do that at zero cost. If there's a market for it, you can set up your own trading pair and you can trade anything. And these people these days are trading anything. They are, a lot of retail wealth traders are moving from Web 2 because it's so expensive and inefficient and going to Web 3 where it's just the Wild West. You can do whatever you want. You can trade on any product out there and you have access to what you'd need. You need to be an employee in Goldman Sachs to be able to access this kind of level in the normal world. You can just do it in Web3. So it's a brand new frontier.
It's really cool. It's really exciting. And it's, we heard about drones, and drones I think are starting to finally get going on some stuff for deliveries and stuff. And of course, electronic cars and self-driving cars and the technology and the way things are changing so fast, and then you add cryptocurrency to the mix and the Web3. It's an exciting time to live for sure. And it's important to be aware of all of these things that you can be a part of your business growth. And so what's the next thing about Subquery? So you identify that, the problem, right, and the inefficiencies, and then you're working with someone like your guys to help build some of the infrastructure there. What's kind of the other questions someone might be asking that I haven't asked so far?
So one of the guilty secrets with Web3 is that a lot of, because it's so early and it's very early days, right? Like Bitcoin's been around for a few years, but the real kind of growth in these applications has only been the last 3 or 4 years. And it's moved lightning quick. One of the biggest dirty secrets is that a lot of the things that you rely on, so Web3 is all about is decentralization. So no one controls the keys to the castle. And one of the biggest dirty secrets is that these applications still have some centralized services that they rely on. So take Subquery as an example. If your application is built on Subquery, it's using the data that we provide you, because we do that data pipeline from the blockchain to your application. If Subquery ceases to exist, then your application kind of breaks, which is really strange. It's an oxymoron in blockchain. You're building this decentralized application, which theoretically should never be able to go down. It's not controlled by anyone. But if we go down, it kind of goes down. So one of the biggest drives for teams like us in the industry, which are kind of along that supply chain in blockchain, is to decentralize our operations. And what we're trying to do with that is, you can run a Subquery project, which is like the indexer takes data from blockchain and stores it in a database like the Excel spreadsheet and gives it to your applications. You can run that yourself, but we're building this decentralized network to encourage other people to run these, so that even if like Subquery as a business ceases to exist, if I walk outside tomorrow and get hit by a bus, for example, or I win the lottery and maybe go to Bahamas, which would be a better outcome for me, Subquery will continue to operate. And that's the real drive for us. So we're decentralizing our network. And what that means is that anyone can be incentivized to run part of the infrastructure and to supply data to the ecosystem. And the Subquery network, this protocol, the rules in it will have the rules around how the rewards are distributed to those people based on the work that they do. And that's what we're trying to do as a company. So the goal for, I think, every Web3 company, and this is very strange when you think of it, is to cease to be a company. Because decentralization and having a company entity is kind of an opposite. It doesn't quite make sense. So the goal of every Web3 company is to not be a company in the end. And this is what you hear about DAOs. You might have heard this concept of DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization, which is a new kind of company structure where there's no formal company, there's no formal CEO, there's no formal board, but a collection or a council of people come together to run this industry and kind of shepherd it towards the right direction. But it's ultimately democratic in a way.
Got it. So, I got it for the best I can, right? Because this is still new to me and I'm trying to digest it. So I want to bring it really practical for our listeners, right? So there might be a real estate investor, there might be a commercial real estate broker, there might be cryptocurrency investor or expert or entrepreneur or business owner, right? So obviously this is kind of a new thing for, I'd say, 99% of the people listening to this, right? So what's the practical thing here? Like where you would say, okay, if you are in real estate, here's the next step to start in your journey to be into Web3, right? Here's the next step if you're a crypto investor or even looking like a tech startup investor. Like give us some practical application here, James.
Yeah, so from a practical point of view, and this is one of the downsides of crypto right now, is it's been very theoretical. There's full of developers that are really smart but don't like to explain things in simple terms. So I'm doing my best. From a practical point of view, things are getting easier and easier. Now, crypto is a huge opportunity for people to jump in from an investment point of view. If you want to, for example, sell property in a decentralized way on a decentralized marketplace, or you want to sell NFTs with your property, or you want to maybe make the ownership of the property in NFTs, and you could fractionalize ownership. There's all these different ideas that a real estate agent could think about to sell some property, and you could help run that or organize that in blockchain. So I think for like a practical term, it's more around understanding, from my point of view, it's more around understanding what this enables. This enables a fully decentralized and entirely rules-based structure of something that is untouchable by any entity, any government. And it's now up for us as all these people, real estate agents, investors, to think around applications for that and to work with teams and blockchains to help realize these applications. There's a lot of developers here that are looking for real-world applications that we can then try adapt this technology for.
Absolutely.
The hard part's doing that. But it's coming, and it's slowly getting there. And there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out of there, out of it. So I mentioned fractionalized ownership, right? If you want to fractionalize the ownership of a real estate, of an actual property, you could do that in blockchain. You might have heard in the news there was a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, that came together with the sole purpose of buying one of the copies of the original Constitution. And they raised just enough money to buy it. But I think someone bid a higher price at the last minute. But that's an example of thousands of individuals, collectively raised, I think, $200 million with the sole purpose of buying that copy of the Constitution and making it freely available for the public. So that's an example of like how you can organize things in a decentralized way using blockchain.
Love it. That's a great real world application there. Absolutely love that. So let's now talk about what happened with Terra and Luna, right? The whole that happened. So for investors who are in crypto, and it went from, maybe just tell them what happened, what your thoughts on what happened, and how that changes the obviously that particular application for that. But just give your thoughts on that.
So in crypto, there's no undo button. So for any investor thinking about getting crypto, be very careful, because there is no undo button. If you fuck up, or if you mess up, you can't go back. Now, what happened in Terra, and this was happened a couple of weeks ago, big market crash you might have heard about. There is this concept of a stable coin in crypto. Now, some crypto assets like Bitcoin are entirely speculative. It's like gold. But some crypto assets are modeled on a fiat or a stable asset. And a US dollar is a perfect example. So you have many different examples of crypto assets that are tied to the US dollar. So they're designed so that they have $1 US value. If I buy one US crypto dollar, it will be the same value in real life as one real US dollar. Okay. Terra was one of the biggest examples of a stable coin, of a stable coin. And the way that did that was using some complex math. And it was all new, right? Like we're trying some new stuff, and essentially there are two assets, and there's one stable coin and one other one called Luna. And as soon as the value of that stable coin, or that there was a high demand of that stable coin, which theoretically pushes the price up, so it goes away from that $1 US exchange rate, they would automatically sell Luna or reduce the supply of Luna to kind of counteract that. Okay, so you had this balancing act between these two entities. And it's kind of new. It's really cool, and it had billions of dollars worth of Terra in it, right? Like billions of dollars, because it was really working really well for a long time, and yeah, everything was great. And there was a bit of the leader of this organization, this Terra organization, was a bit of a cult personality on Twitter, and it's an example of don't always follow the loudest voice. But there was a big market move where someone dumped hundreds of millions of dollars of Luna in the space of a few minutes. And that's a big displacement, okay? And it knocked it off its peg. It knocked it off its dollar match. And that kind of scared investors, understandably so. And although people might have said the warning signs were there where this could happen, it's kind of like a macroeconomic issue, right? Like a lot of complex factors came into it. There was a lot of things moving around. There was a bit of a supply issue on the Luna side. But essentially what happened was, in the space of a week, tens of billions of dollars of value was lost. The price of this, what was meant to be $1 stablecoin, went to zero. The price of Luna went to zero. And investors lost I think it was like $60 million. $60 billion, like something ridiculous. It's the same as like burning Madoff, like that kind of level of fraud, or a loss to investors. It's a perfect example of how in crypto we're doing so many new different things. We're trying brand new ideas. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. People might say they saw it. People said they saw the GFC, but it still hurt a lot of people, and it still caused a lot of pain. One of the most amazing things, though, is we worked with a lot of people in this ecosystem, a lot of builders building stuff based on that stablecoin. Building DeFi products. And after this traumatic week, they lost all their money. This company lost all their money. And many companies like this, all their reserves were backed in this stablecoin. It all went to zero. They lost all their money. And you would understand if you talk to a business, and a business is operating in a country, and that all their funds went to zero. you'd understand if they're like, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't go into blockchain. Maybe we should kind of go back to the Web 2 world, the real world. But all of them that we talk to are saying like, we're going to learn from this. We're going to move on and we're going to keep building and we're going to go somewhere new and do it there again, because they really believe in this future.
Thanks for sharing that. It's great insight, and it's from. I mean, we help people defer capital gains taxes on the exit of highly appreciated cryptocurrency. So we're dealing with the exit, but we're by no means experts in the actual investing side of things. We rely on other people that are in that space, and so crypto investors show up to us, and they exit to defer the tax. And so, like we just did a Bitcoin case. She had bought Bitcoin for $30,000 to $50,000, and it went to 50 million. And when Bitcoin was at 54,000 a coin, she exited at 5 million to defer about 1.85 million. She lived in California, and that was a big way for her to diversify and exit. Now the coin ended up going up close to 69,000, but then it dropped to 25 or 20,000 here in the last month and a half. And so the ability to sell and diversify and defer that capital gains tax. I'm curious, James, someone who has $1 billion in Luna, right, or 100 million or a million or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If they have the ability to defer the tax, what would that mean for somebody to be able to sell high and defer capital gains tax? And I know I'm speaking for U.S. residents here. Every country has a little bit different thing, but I'm just curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's different in every country. It's absolutely different in every country, right? One thing about businesses like Subquery, a lot of crypto businesses will open their operations and register their company in a couple of different regions around the world. So Singapore, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Portugal is also pretty good. There's certain most jurisdictions, including the States, including New Zealand, where I am, haven't really formulated a lot of the rules that are required to clarify how they treat taxation on crypto assets, and not just exiting and not just selling crypto assets with fiat, but things like if we generate tokens at Subquery, if we create a token which has a value, how do we tax that? Is that like taxed as if we issue shares, which it kind of like operates like, or is it taxed in a different way? It's very unclear. And this is an example, as you said, like drones before, where technology is just moving so much faster than our legal and financial systems. And we're not really stopping to like wait and say, hey guys, can you like clarify this before we go off and do this? So a lot of people in crypto don't really actually, like they exit a little bit, but they don't really pull out a huge amount because they just don't know. And it's different in every country. There's a lot of things coming through though these days that make it a bit easier. So there's a lot of services that make doing your taxation a lot easier. So some states, some countries will tax you on every single transaction you make. Some will tax you just when you put it in and bring it out. It's very different, and it's very different in every jurisdiction. I like quite now that we've got there's now some products like Crypto.com card and Wirex card. If you're a big fan of Formula One, you might see Crypto.com up all the time. Where you can buy a Visa card, and that's linked directly to your crypto assets. And every time you purchase something in the real world, it sells a little bit of your crypto assets. So life's getting easier. But in terms of big whales moving assets in and out, it's still very difficult. I can't promise, I can't tell you exactly the best way to do it, the silver bullet, because as I say, it depends on every state, every jurisdiction. You really have to talk to a taxation expert in your local area because it completely is different in every place.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And just in case people are wondering, you're in the U.S., can you defer taxes on the sale of Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, NFTs? The answer is yes. It's called a Deferred Sales Trust. We did it for another client who had Ethereum. They bought it for about 100,000. It went to 13 million, and they exited about 7.5 million starting on August 1st of last year. And we're able to get Ethereum when it was about 3,000 a coin and then about 4,000 a coin. And so it's done very well for them. And now, Ethereum, I think it was low as 1,500 a coin. It had dropped, more than half. But the key is selling high and diversifying and be able to buy low. You can do that now. It is possible using the Deferred Sales Trust. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. If you want to learn more about that, it's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, James, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Buy Bitcoin.
Perfect answer. Love it. Question number 2. What's the number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I've been reading in the past couple of months Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1. I quite enjoyed that. It talks about how you go from building something completely new, not just improving something, but something completely new. And it's got a lot of good nuggets in there.
Fantastic. Question 3. What's the number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Lead by example. There's nothing more. I think leadership's best expressed when the people that work for you know that you can do it, but want to do it for you better because they know how busy you are and how you need to work as a team.
Love it. Second to last question. What are you most curious about right now?
I'm quite curious. Like at the moment, there's a big shift right now in equities around the world. I'm quite curious around where this is going to go in the next 6 months. There's a lot of shuddering in the market, and I'm really fascinated to see. You know, I lived through the GFC, and I've seen the initial COVID downturn, but I haven't really. This is like my second recession. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens and trying to apply the lessons from the last recession into this one.
Very thoughtful answer. Thank you for that. Last question, and it's one of my favorite questions. You know, after all your success helping the teams that you've helped, building the business you've built, and all of your background and expertise leading to this moment, how do you best stay centered in your values? What habit maybe do you practice to help you stay centered in your values and then stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
In crypto, you never stop working. It's the most furiously fast-paced environment. So it's really important not to burn out. And for me, that means going outside, taking the time to get away from the phone and laptop and just living in the moment for a day or two, then coming back into it.
James, I want to thank you for being on the show and sharing a bunch of wisdom, open up my mind to Web3 and our listeners' minds to Web3. And I want to encourage you to keep using that gift of helping others, think bigger, get outside, explore the beautiful world, and then work really hard to help people with their Web3 development, cryptocurrency investing, everything that you're doing. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, James A. Bailey, or subquery.network, subquery.network. Talk to us on Twitter, talk to us there. There's all the links.
Amazing. By the way, Bailey is spelled Bayly. Bayly. James, thanks for being on the show. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. Also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is an excellent way. If you're a U.S. Subject to U.S. capital gains tax, to defer capital gains tax on the sale of businesses, real estate, cryptocurrency, NFTs, save a failed 1031 exchange, so you can create and preserve more wealth or help your clients, friends, or family do the same. If we can help you at all, we would love to you to connect with us by downloading our free ebook. We have a gift for you by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, and make sure that you have a plan to exit when it makes sense for you, and learn all about that by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Please rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the iTunes, all the places that you're listening to. Please share this with someone that can help. And we